the military had as a direct interest, well, what if one of these little buggers dropped out and we had to fight them?
Right.
And, what would we look at? And there you get the War of the Worlds scenarios, et cetera, et cetera. You don't see NASA participating in any of this.
Why?
So I find it extremely curious that they are not curious.
Yeah,
and
why?
that they're not promoting a culture of curiosity.
Why do you think?
I think they already know.
I do too. Do you think that
In fact, I think they have proved that through their own language.
Well, do you think that NASA is let's say, the front organization that keeps the public happy, but that our true scientists, the true research, is going on way in the back room, and nobody knows what they're doing? I mean, I have heard that they are so far beyond in their research and their abilities than even they talk about, that the average person would have no idea how truly advanced this, whatever the organization is, because NASA would be, as I said, like the front organization dealing with the public itself.
Exactly. So what we're talking about is the hand in the glove that manipulates NASA.
Yeah, right.
And I would agree with you. And think about the disservice that they're going to do to the civilization as a whole, because we've had no opportunity to acclimatize ourselves to a reality that would include life in some other form than ourselves. Yet we live on a planet that's ferociously populated with life in all sorts of forms.
Yeah, I would say
and so the idea should not be strange. But we don't have any mental construct in which to put this. So should it occur, of course vast quantities of people are going to go nuts. Because they've been reassured for, the entire length of their life that such a thing could not occur from grand authorities, including NASA.
And then all of a sudden, something is going to be dropped in their lap, and that something, like you're at least alluding to, Cliff, is something that's so fantastic that
it indeed appears to be exactly the sort of scene that would fit the criteria that we've got now.
Well, let me tell you, it sure shake the you-know-what out of me, too, if all of a sudden, we realize that, and I know we've been lied to time and time again, but still, in the back of your mind, in the seat of your soul, you're hoping...
You know why that is. They have engineered that deliberately over the past 50-plus years with the language used to address the whole subject.
Really? Oh,
of course, because there are certain psychological conditionings that can be applied onto the mind.
Right.
And as I alluded to last time, if you're not in control of your mind, someone else is.
In
our case, it's the mind manipulators who populate advertising, et cetera, who are told, ridicule this message, do it in such a way that there's a shame variant attached, and thus when people even think about considering that changing their worldview to accommodate this, shame arises.
My gosh.
Isn't it shame that you feel for even considering such a nut job theory?
Jeez, yeah, you do. Sure you do.
Guess where I read that?
I'm aware.
U.S. War College.
Honest to God, oh my gosh. Cliff, tell me, before we get into some of the heavy stuff, what is going on in the world? I mean, there is...
don't ask me. I'm an ignorant pig.
Yeah, well, I'm behind you. So it just seems that so much is happening on so many different levels, and the poor public at large, worldwide, we have no idea. Yeah, we talk because somebody sneaks out of the back room and they whisper something to a friend, and then it starts to, go all around the town. But there are some things going on that just defy explanation in any way. And I was just hoping, that
I might know something.
Yeah, right.
Well, I've got a context in which to place it,
all right.
And that helps.
Okay, go.
Okay, we know that indeed there is a huge amount of change going on, and that change itself is accelerating. In terms of thinking about it, you can think that the rate of change is very fast and getting faster by the minute. One way to also look at this is that we're all in a headlong rush for what has been called the singularity. And the singularity is a moment in which there's constant change erupting around you. Now, we need to put that into context within our bodies and our five senses. It need not mean that the whole world is constantly shimmering in front of your eyes as things change so fast you can't even reach out your hand to get your doorknob. But it may indeed mean that the change is so rapid that your mind delivered its information through these five senses, cannot cope.
I believe that. Sure.
Sure, makes sense.
Yeah, and I think we're actually, like you said, Cliff, we're seeing the results of it now with people going nuts.
And thus we have a huge pharmacological industry catering to trying to control the mind all about that. And we know really to a certain extent that, if one gets into the history, one can go back and read vast quantities of literature in Sanskrit, thousands of volumes of which have never even been translated out of Sanskrit into any other language, about exacting techniques for mind control and the separation of mind from will, and how to manage your life as an effective human, aware of the reality rather than the illusion. And yet we find ourselves in a society where our education system has dumbed everybody down since 1890.
Yeah.
In 1890, you could pick up any paper for weeks on end, and all of the citizen response was all about the monetary system and the wisdom of going to paper currency. Do you see such debates these days? No. Highly select few whose livelihoods depend on it, yes, but general citizenry worried about the structure and context of their life and the impact that paper currency might make on it.
Wow.
Imagine the children that are being educated today who half of them can't even pass the reading on the SAT test.
That's right.
Come up and say, well, let's have a discussion about fiat currency, its history, and its application in current times.
Yeah, wouldn't that go over big?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So why is that? Why is an education system? I had the good fortune to have the universe place me outside of this country during a great many of my formative years, and was delivered an education that was schooling, rather. Let me put it that way. Schooling that was very decent and exceptional when considered to the standard American schooling at the time. So I came back very much a stranger in a strange land. And as a consequence of isolation, pursued learning the ability to learn. And so thus I could set my mind as a tool at any task and say, learn this. And it would have a set routine and develop more routines and alter them and challenge assumptions. And pretty soon I would know that. And we would apply this here. Now, as you say, what's going on?
Yeah.
Well, we're getting to a point where the pharmacological industry is providing chemical props to people to deal with abstractions that are coming in essentially from their five senses, and they're not dealing with any of the issues that arise from that. Now, my supposition is that there may indeed be, again, an invisible hand that wants to direct all of this, such as why, allow a neurotoxin like aspartame to be widely consumed. It's a real good question.
Yep.
Why are we in search of artificial sweeteners? If diet pop worked, no one would be obese.
That's very true, too.
Okay,
Yeah.
so along with all of these basic assumptions, we have the idea of reductionism, but I think at a systems level, there are people out there very much aware of the systems and the cycles in which they operate, and they're attempting to do things for power. We might as well just call it naked power, I guess.
Yeah.
Which would benefit themselves and those who control their strengths. And the real problem is that while universe in general has shown itself favorable to the existence of humanity over a long period, millions of years,
right,
that could be jeopardized if humanity doesn't get off its butt and get control of things.
Okay.
I mean, realistically, if we approach a singularity in which there's even a magnetic reversal on this planet, the impacts of the reversal, the shredding and shedding of the protective layer of the magnetosphere,
Yeah.
and the pumping up of the magnetic quotient of the planet as the poles rotate, will cause vast levels of mental disturbance in all kinds of creatures, including humans.
Yeah. Now, we just got a very, very interesting email, and you may even know about this, but Peggy Hurst just wrote it, and she heard it on one of Rence's shows last week, but she says, just as the mushroom cloud is unmistakably characteristic of an atomic bomb explosion, a certain other type bomb, she can't remember which one, creates a characteristic dreadlock pattern. Long, thick, drooping tendrils of smoke form a perfect match for a full head of dreadlocks. The term
That's kind of odd.
Yeah, the term dreadlocks.
Well, especially since our descriptor goes on to say as round as is tall. And I always thought, oh, poor fellow, he's a little rotund.
Oh, it says the term dreadlocks is actually used to describe the explosion pattern as the mushroom cloud is used for an A-bomb. Clif's dreadlock man could be metaphoric for a certain type of explosive. Very interesting, Peg. Thanks.
Now that she scared me to my my core, yeah, thanks a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, very interesting.
Yeah, you see the associations and you see the problem with the interpretation. To a certain extent, we have to take it